you can see that that is gone, right? Why is that? Well, I think I've already stated this at the beginning of the channel. Since the pandemic, I started collecting Blu-rays and 4Ks and all that stuff. Uh, December of 2020. First started with Decalogue, actually, and when I wanted to make this as not so much as a hobby, but like as a part of like my daily experience to like watch these sort of art house films or whatever like that. I kind of wondered to myself eventually, well, why do people remember this? Why is this important inherently, right? Because really, nothing is really important unless you find it important, right? This is historical relevancy, right? Multiple ways you can angle it. What I do is basically just watch these films, and most of these films, if you see here, there isn't like a whole lot compared to like a lot of other people that have shelves or what have you, because I typically like have the time to look into a movie and just rewatch it again, or so like most of these films I've rewatched like probably two or three times, and this has been over a span of 3 years, mind you, yeah, up to now. And well, in the interim, because I'm still currently working through the Pasolini collection, um, and I wanted to make something more just kind of spontaneous off the cuff, because these these previous like edited videos have taken a lot of time, of course, because I haven't never edited a video previously, so it's it's been kind of hard to like take the time to do that while also watching and writing down stuff, and because I work, have kids, all that stuff. So I've had the time to just go through all these, and maybe these will be longer reviews in the future when I really have time to talk about it. But most of the time, people gravitate towards new releases, which I will be doing in the future. But in the meantime, because I've had so much time, and there's a lot of releases that are coming out in the future that I really don't have like a whole lot of interest in. The only things that I can think of are like Snow White that's coming out on 4K, or just thinking off the top of my head. Uh, Really, that's the only thing that I could think of maybe that I would even be remotely interested in. Obviously Severance coming out with their sale, and they've had their releases too. Criterion delayed theirs at the time of this recording. So what I plan to do is just make these long form videos, and not to be like completely boring or what have you, just like some guy talking about his movies that he's watched for like the past 3 years. But I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about, and uh, I just want to get started because it's a lot of stuff to go through. So what my plan is for like the new releases is to wait until the sale, do another flash haul, and then actually like do the edited stuff on that. In the meantime, doing the edited on the Pasolini. So there's going to be still a lot more content coming out and such, but um, in the meantime, I just wanted to like basically pad this with this. So just full honesty here. So anyway, we're going Walkabout first, because this just got released, and it's the first spine in the Criterions that I have. Obviously, like there's two box sets over there: the Pasolini box set that I'm currently reviewing, um, and then the Bergman box set, which I have not gotten through because it's a mammoth like of a work, and those are thoughts I'll have in the future. But whenever it comes to just single releases and kind of like smaller box sets, we'll just go into here. So, Walkabout. This came out in 1971, I believe, in pretty much everywhere. Nicholas Roeg film. Absolutely love this. I think it's Nicholas Roeg's masterpiece. It's a very beautiful film. Both just everything about it. Just um, where can I even begin? So the acting's great, cinematography, direction, general, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How can I break it down? So it's about this upper class kids that their dad basically tries to kill them, and eventually he kills himself. And then they go on to this outback journey where they find this aboriginist boy, and they go and really like the search for them is to find civilization again, whereas for the boy he's just going on his walkabout. So there's two dual things that are happening here. Mostly the themes are sort of the really the becoming of sort of an adult, or like you realizing more about the world than what you previously had. like basically your world being destroyed, and then going into these sort of these roads that you don't really know what it'll lead to. So in this sense, and I felt like the ending definitely um, captured that, and it's a it can be considered a pessimistic film. I don't consider it that way though. I think it's a very it, it's very hard to put into words because it's definitely one of those films that you can really just look at and say, okay, that's a pretty neat little film. But if you take the ideas from where it's coming from and the heart of it all, I think it's a very overwhelmingly emotional movie. And compared to all of Nick Rogue's other films like Man Who Fell to Earth and Don't Look Now and A Bad Timing, I think that Walkabout just it's a way better film by a country mile. It's one of those movies that will stand the test of time. It's a masterpiece. Everything about it, and it's probably like if you put a gun to my head and what's your top 10 favorite, like maybe top 5 actually, top 5 favorite films of all time, Walkabout would make that list. So that's basically like the long and short of it. So the release of this that just recently came out, I've talked about this I think in the previous video, that the 4K on this is going to be the same master and not the second sight master. And the second sight master is one to definitely get into. I think the 4K is probably an improvement from what I've read, and I might be able to get it whenever the sale comes to get my full reviews on it and my real in-depth review about Walkabout. But for now, we just have to look at the Blu-ray review. Also, the commentary on this by the lead actress and Nick Rogue in this is great as well. So if you want to just pick up the 4K or what have you, then for sure, like, the commentary track is absolutely essential, which I'm sure you would get to anyway. So you already know about this one. This is one of the like a meme, what have you. I already made my thoughts pretty apparent on this from like whenever the Pasolini 101 box set was announced. This is a very sad film. It's just, unfortunately, it's just totally relevant socially, what have you. The more time has gone on, and that's just a very sad fact that Pasolini made this his last work. Because, and I'll be able to get into it more with my reviews, but I think we'll just leave it at that, just because you guys probably already know what this film is about, so I don't have to go into it here. High and Low, Akira Kurosawa's crime procedural drama. A lot of people love this film. It's really about like a shoe magnet that eventually gets blackmailed by a lower class drug dealer, kingpin, what have you, lowlife, and takes one of the children of his, I believe, his worker or something closely related. So he has to decide between whether to let the kid pretty much die because it's not his own, or take the kid back and give the drug dealer the ransom money. And eventually, and there's high stakes here. So like the first half of this film is absolutely great. It's wonderful. It's like the best Kurosawa. It's wonderful. The acting by Toshihiro Mifune is great. All the acting here is spectacular, I think. But once we get into the second half of the procedural aspect of it, it eventually nosedives for me, because I think that the procedural thing is like, it's so cool to like watch these films that like there's a germ here, or like some seed where eventually in the future like it just develops into like all these other types of films that you probably like already know, sort of like Heat, for example. I look at this movie and I'm just like, man, this is like a great forerunner for that film. But like I said, I mean, the second part to me is just, you kind of just lose interest. Now, like at the first half rivets you so much that like the second half is just, it eventually plays out, then that's awesome. But like, it's not even really the second half. It's almost like, the third act of it. Like, I don't want to spoil it, basically. It eventually just, it's almost like too little too late. It's like the ending, like almost never, and it's not really even a satisfying ending either. It's kind of, you just have to watch the film That's all that I could really say about it because this is a non-spoiler type of channel. So, but for the critical reappraisal of this film to be like considered one of Kurosawa's best films, to me is just like a no go because now when you have like stuff like Seven Samurai, or even Rashomon, Ikaru, or even Ron, right? So I just think that there's so many great films in his repertoire or whatever that High and Low is to me considered a really cool film and even more influential than I would say like it's a enjoyable film experience. So for sure, like High and Low, Criterion Channel picked this up. Yeah, the mighty Andrei Rublev. So Andrei Rublev is a lot of things. It's in really above all, it's a film about the human condition. Well, not human condition, human endurance. I would say. Uh, the best way I could describe this is Andrei Rublev was a 14th century Russian painter who lived in maybe like one of the worst times in Russian history, which is saying a lot because Russia has had like a very tough and hardened history. Now, during this time, history lesson here. So, like the Mongol Khan, right, the largest contiguous empire, maybe I think either that or Alexander the Great. I don't know, but the Mongol Khan basically took over Russia, installed like Tatar, oh, well, no, boyars that were loyal to the Mongol state. They basically leached off the land and all that stuff, and it was just a complete nightmare. And there was sacks all over Russia, Muscovy, or whatever. Andrei Rublev was living through this tough time, and through his paintings that he was able to create and the trials and errors he was able to have in his life, it eventually just blossoms into this wonderful film experience, which to me is Andrei Tarkovsky's best film that he's ever made, that he did ever make. People will point to Stalker or his more personal films that he made later in his career. Andrei Rublev is everything. It was everything he made from like Ivan's Childhood, and eventually he just went into other territory that was fine. Like Mirror, for example, that's a good film, and I'll be able to talk about that later, of course. But with Andrei Rublev, I think he never got as good as this because he was able to take the history of Russia and meld that in with his own way of cinema poetry. And there's just a lot going on in this that I can't really like convey because this is a monster of a film. This is one that will move you. This is one that will make you reframe everything whenever it comes to art, especially at the last part of this film, which is absolutely legendary. It is totally worth the 3 hour, almost 3 hour runtime. Go out, get this film, watch it on Criterion Channel. There's a 4K free, like a free 4K thing on Moss Film right now on YouTube for free. So yeah, go and get this film for sure. The Red Shoes, Powell and Pressburger. So this is, I believe, like either their third or fourth collaboration in 1948. Most famously heralded by Martin Scorsese, I believe Francis Ford Coppola. So now the Powell and Pressburger films are very strange to me. So this one, The Red Shoes, is about the Hans Christian Andersen story, The Red Shoes, but told in sort of like a meta aspect. Well, there's a stage play being done about the Red Shoes, but at the same time, the Red Shoes is in that story that is being played out. So the Powell and Pressburger films are, to me, I remember looking on Criterion has these lists like through their website or what have you, and Ken Jennings of all people like did a list. Obviously, if you don't know who Ken Jennings is, he's a Jeopardy host, and he said that all the Powell and Pressburger films are like slices from the whole. And I couldn't think of like a better way to say it because these films to me are not like masterpieces in any sense. Yes, they are absolutely beautiful. Some of the shots especially in The Red Shoes, are brimming with beautiful colors, and it's just magnificent to look at. The acting from Anton Walbrook, not only in this but in Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, is absolutely wonderful. He does not get talked about a lot in early cinema, like 40s 30s cinema. He was that good of an actor. this film to me is just fine. That's all I can say. And it's not that like I don't think that I do think that for whatever reason, like because Martin Scorsese has so much pull, with these films, because him and Francis Ford Coppola sort of had like this nostalgic thing for like these 40s and 50s Technicolor marvels, right? More so Scorsese than Coppola, but I would say that that with the Red Shoes, and with all the Powell and Pressburger films, we would not be able to hear about them if it were not for the powerful voice of Scorsese or any other of these restorations, like Richard III, for example, that I'll be able to talk about. But with the Red Shoes, it's a good acted, a very well done film. If you like it, of course, do so. But for me, it's just there's better films out there. But definitely, the Red Shoes is worth your time as far as these 1940s, these beautiful, lush Technicolor marvels per se. Taste of Cherry. Abbas Kiarostami, the first Abbas Kiarostami film that I've ever watched, made in 1997. Made famous by a scathing review from Roger Ebert, gave it 0 stars, I believe. Said that it was affectation. He said that it was bullshit, basically. like, but a lot of people champion this film. A lot of people love it, and I am one of those people. When I first watched this film, I really had no idea what I was getting into. And one of the first films I've ever watched on the Criterion channel, mind you. And watching it, I just thought it was very strange. So basically, well, I've said that like 5 times, goddamn. So this film is about this guy driving through the Iranian desert looking for somebody to kill him because he doesn't have enough gumption to kill himself. And while he's doing that, he meets 3 people. And these 3 people give him different ideas, basically different views. So this film is beautiful, not only in the sort of the great machinations of life, this outpouring of wanting to be alive, and especially like the last person that he meets, it's very beautiful. The cinematography I think was absolutely wonderful. Just this very yellowish haze that's really kind of a metaphor for consuming this guy's life. That's basically like trying to dig him into this grave or trying to pour it on him. So in this sense, Taste of Cherry is just an absolutely wonderful film experience. I Harold Kiarostami is one of the great filmmakers of all time. Close Up to me is up there with Citizen Kane. It's up there with enter top sight and sound film here. I think it's that good, which it actually got into number 9, but I'll be able to talk about that later. Anyway, with Taste of Cherry, one of the few things that Roger Ebert got incorrect, but of course I love this film. A lot of people do, and it's the first. I would actually recommend this film for anyone that wants to get into Abbas Kiarostami, just because like the other films are so closely. I don't think Close Up should be able to be that entry point. I think that Taste of Cherry is like the perfect way, because now the ending, I will say, it does get on people's nerves because of how I don't even think it's self-reflexive. It's more of like just yep, it's a movie. That's all I can really say about it. And I used to defend it all the time, but I can understand the criticisms now. So that's why I don't think it's more like it's one of his best films that he's made, but I think there's better ones. But anyway, Taste of Cherry, go out and watch it. Criterion Channel is probably your best bet. This is one of my contenders for any type of 4K release. Like this is one that I would pick up because like this transfer is beautiful. So I've already discussed Joan of Arc multiple times. This is one of the classics of not only cinema, silent cinema, what have you. This is Carl Dreyer's best work by a country mile. Yeah, go out of your way to see this for sure. It's one of the great films, and I've already covered this on the channel, so I won't be able to talk a whole lot about it. there's also multiple versions of this. I believe there's one at 25 frames and one at 24 frames per second. I've always been a 24 frames person, but I think that they also like did it based on the speed, because there's like great some of the best supplements in Criterion's history is in this work. So definitely give this one a shot, and get the Criterion version. So Renee Falconetti, man, just incredible actress. Now we get into Wes Anderson. So Rushmore was not the first Wes Anderson film that I've watched, but it's one of my favorite Wes Anderson films. I think it's hilarious. What it's really about is everything. It's really cool. So Jason Schwartzman plays this guy. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to look at his name. Let me see, Max Fisher. And Max Fisher is this guy. Well, is really this kid who's basically like the high school. I wouldn't say like grifter. That's kind of weird, but using high school to move himself like into this social sphere, what have you. Basically, getting his hands involved with everything in like he gets his hands involved with everything, and that gets him into big trouble. Eventually gets him expelled from his high school, and everything unravels. Everything ravels back up. It's one of the things that I have about Wes Anderson is I've always felt that he could have been this, not this generation, but the previous generations, like the millennial generation's John Hughes, because I think that this, and I'll be able to talk about it later, but like Moonrise Kingdom, I find it that his themes fit well better within like the adolescent sphere rather than adults, because it's just I always felt that with both Rushmore and Moonrise Kingdom, that those films just worked better for whatever reason, and I can't put my finger on it. Besides like what I just told you, but I ended up liking those films a lot more just because maybe they were a little bit more carefree, I guess. So in this case, well, carefree and not carefree. For Rushmore, because it's been a while since I've watched it. But with that being said, I still enjoy the film, and I would recommend Rushmore because I think it's very funny, because Jason Schwartzman, who plays Max Fisher, is very funny in this film. So and Bill Murray's great too. And as much as I criticize Wes Anderson for the soundtrack, I actually think that the soundtrack does elevate this film a little bit. Whereas like the other films that he uses music in is just whatever. But with this, it actually works, especially during the scenes where Max Fisher and Bill Murray's character are fighting, and those are really good. So anyway, yeah, for sure, check out Rushmore. I don't know if it's on the Criterion channel, but yeah, I would still check it out. Good morning, Ozu's Ozu's very strange film. So Good Morning is kind of based off of a remake of what he had previously did in I Was Born Bud, which is about really these kids' lives and technology that has reared its head in contemporary Japanese society at the time, and how that affects them and the family and everything. And looking at this film, and with I Was Born Bud is a very well told family drama film, and it takes kids seriously in there, which I don't think the same way that Kiarostami is able to do so in like I don't know, films like the Cobra trilogy, especially like with Where's the Friend's House. Like Abbas Kiarostami got that from these films. Like and I know that he wasn't a big like cinema like a cinephile or whatever like that, but I've looked it up, but I've done my research, and this is definitely one of those films that I think it influenced Kiarostami greatly, especially with the whole family aspect of it. So in this sense, I think that Good Morning is not one of Ozu's best films. I think it's a very relaxing time. And we kind of just totally forget about really what the main idea is, and that's like technology destruction in the family. But I may be taking that a little bit too far. But it's a very sweet film. It's one of the films that I think that, well, a Criterion, that the supplement feature is better than the main one. That because I was born, but I would consider one of Ozu's best films for sure. Uh, I would say that that is better than Good Morning, but for sure, whatever your thoughts are, at least it's included in this. So now to my favorite Powell and Pressburger film, Black Narcissus, which is just it. It kind of let me put this in here. Okay, basically, it is their craziest. I think they're basically their most craziest effort. Er, well, I do think that whenever you get into like the nuts and bolts of like the story, it's about covenant that goes to the top of like this Himalayan mountain where it was previously like I think a geisha house. I'm really not for, I really wasn't paying attention there, but um, it causes like these women, especially one, to go absolutely insane, and it's one of the ones where I think that future Michael Powell, like whenever he made Peeping Tom and destroyed his career, it kind of showed in this film because it is just it's a very disturbing film, I think, and I think it's wonderful. It's to me like the one Powell and Pressburger film that I'm just like, that's what I like from Powell and Pressburger. Like there's just this overwhelming sense of just delirium whenever it comes on the screen, which they were able to do with the Red Shoes as well, but in a different sort of way. Whereas Black Narcissus, I just look and just see, man, just there's a couple. Oh yeah, all of these, and that's another thing with like Scorsese's influence. All of these criterions that feature Powell and Pressburger have like full on commentaries, just everything discussing about the film in very minute detail. With Black Narcissus, Michael Powell actually did the commentary track to this, and he just there was one pivotal scene that I will not spoil, but he basically was just like talking about just what he wanted to have happen in the scene, and that to me is one of the highlights of like owning a Criterion film, is to hear like the guy really talk about it, and it kind of opened my eyes to really what he was wanting to do in the film, and once that elevated, I'm just like, man, it just gave me like a whole new perspective on it. So that's maybe, that's why I really love I always trump commentaries like over a lot of other special features, because to me, like visual essays and all that stuff, like that's cool, so you can market along with it. But I think that commentaries, that see there owning this for a while, there's two types of commentaries for me. One is basically like just adding it, just a bunch of like tidbits and facts and all that stuff, and that's fine, I guess. But to me, that mostly gets into kind of blah range, right? So that's why I think commentaries have kind of whatever, because there's some really bad ones in here, and I'll be able to say, but not Black Narcissus. Black Narcissus because it includes Michael Powell, who does it, just like Nick Rogue in Walkabout, right? He was able to convey like what he was just trying to do in the shot, and it gives you like a better sort of opportunity about it. Well, to really kind of understand it a little bit more. But anyway, Black Narcissus for sure. Check this out, Criterion Channel. It's it is one crazy trip. Okay, the first box set, 3 films by Luis Buñuel. Buñuel, my bad. The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeois, The Phantom of Liberty, and That Obscure Object of Desire. So, I've already reviewed Discreet Charm of the Bourgeois on this channel. I had to get the 4K because 4K Buñuel is totally up my alley. So I made my comments known on it, that Buñuel can never get over making fun of the aristocracy and the upper class. Never could get over it. But with each subsequent film in this trilogy, it got better and better. So from where Discreet Charm of the Bourgeois left off, The Phantom of Liberty was a much more personal excursion, especially like in one of these scenes where this guy gets like checked out for cancer, what have you, and then Buñuel makes the guy like slap the doctor, which obviously like that had to have been like something personal, because I think at the time like he was going under cancer treatment, if I'm not mistaken. But The Phantom of Liberty, I thought was a pretty funny, like there's some scenes of this where I actually found better than The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeois. And then when I watched That Obscure Object of Desire, it was even more interesting and much better than Phantom of Liberty. So Phantom of Liberty is basically like this surreal type of film that sort of like goes on from each thing to each thing, and sort of it brings it all together, but it's a satisfying whole. And with the obscure object of desire, it's about this upper class guy who cannot really, um, really can't have sex with this woman, even though he tries. And the funny thing of the thing is that obscure object of desire really not that obscure whenever we watch it, but it's probably more deeper than what I'm conveying. So that obscure object of desire to me is like one of Buñuel's best films. It's funny and really kind of heartbreaking in a sense, even though that you kind of don't really feel for the guy, but even then, like I still kind of wanted him, like you can do it, man. I don't know. But there's also a really cool sort of way where Buñuel hired actually two actresses to play the same woman, and I thought, man, that is ingenious. Like that is a really really good a really awesome way to put it. And to me, like that obscure object of desire also has like really good supplements as well as like the other two films in here. So now I wouldn't recommend like this box set for Buñuel. I would rather you like go out and just check out like a single title of like I don't know, Exterminating Angel or Viridiana, Belle de Jour, any of those films. Because the thing with Buñuel, I don't think there's like a real good entry point. You just have to go in and just kind of just wipe away all your presuppositions and just go for it. And I would not start with this because yeah, I would just go for single titles for sure. Royal Tenenbaums. This is one of my wife's favorite films about a dysfunctional family that's eventually unravels and comes together. Basically, um, I didn't like this film. It's probably one of my least favorite Wes Anderson films, just because it really none of. That's the thing about like these types of like ensemble films is that whenever it comes to like the family and such, I, I don't think that Wes Anderson's way of like making films, especially like with the interaction of the characters, leads to like a lot of emotional gravity. And especially like whenever you're supposed to feel for someone in this film, I just really didn't care about it that much. Also, the soundtrack kind of irks me. Like you play like let me see. It was like that Nico song whenever they're like leaving the cemetery. It was like it's like Seasons or something like that. I was like, okay, that was good. But like the rest of like the other stuff in here, just add a song just to convey a certain. It just never really got my goat basically. So I of course, if you like Wes Anderson, go ahead and like watch this film for sure. But for me, it just definitely wasn't my thing. Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. Um, Again, another slice from the hole from like Powell and Pressburger. Roger Livesley, I believe, who is his name, who plays Colonel Candy, is pretty good. There's some scenes of basically it's of course Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, like this name of the title. It's about this guy who eventually, with time, becomes sort of antiquated within his own rank or government or whatever, and and all the events leading up to that. So, of course, a beautiful Technicolor Marvel, wonderful acting. Of course, Anton Walbrook steals the show again in this film, just like he did with the Red Shoes. But I do think that there's, uh, again, I would say that narratively, this is probably a lot more satisfying, I would say, than a lot of the other ones like Black Narcissus or the Red Shoes or what have you. And this is a lot of people's favorite Powell and Pressburger film, maybe this or Matter of Life and Death. But and then the World War II scenes here are really really well done. By the way, there's some of these close up shots of these officers threatening prisoners of war or what have you are very tense and quite modern. And that's how visionary Michael Powell was. But but again, it's just a slice from the whole. A very well done film again from the great Powell and Pressburger troupe. So duo, I should say, for Powell and Pressburger. But we get to Umberto D. Uh, okay, how can I say this? So around at this time in 1952, near-realist film or whatever like that was already out. It was already getting into the sectors of art house cinema. It was already premiering. Bicycle Thieves was everywhere. Vittorio De Sica's first film, Miracle in Milan, was also a big success, I think. When D came out, people in Italy were pissed because it was sort of like a um, going back to like this sort of like weepy story. You take like something like an old man and a dog, which will make anybody cry. Like whenever it comes to a sad story, right? And two helpless things, and you make like a near realist drama out of it, like you did previously. Um, Italy was getting tired of it, and really after this, Vittorio De Sica, like he made films after this, but I don't know if they were, I don't know if they were probably good, but I don't know if they ever came close to like Bicycle Thieves, Miracle Milan, or even this film considered like critically, because I haven't been able to see it. So where can I get into this film? A man and a dog. The man gets kicked out of an apartment, tries to like scrounge up and tries to live, and that's basically it. And comes across this girl character that's facing her own crisis, with her being pregnant by a boy that is not obviously going to be with her. Uh, this film was a slog to get through, and it's unfortunate because this is considered like probably the sickest best film. People love this film even compared to Bicycle Thieves. Um, this film, there's not a lot of films that I really dislike, because I think that films like have a sort of way of like charming me over or getting an idea across where I'm just like, okay, I understand, I get that. I'm a rational guy. I don't have to like dislike things because I feel Umberto D is one of those films that I dislike, and I'll tell you why. First off, and this is like my narcissistic personality, and it may be this. I don't think that you can just have a caricature of a guy that, first off, we don't have any background. We don't have any background as to why he's alone, as to why he has a dog, as to why he's getting kicked. Well, we have some idea of why he's getting kicked out, because he can't get along with the landowner. But the more we get into it, the more that we just really have no background. We're just supposed to feel sorry for this old man and this dog, which the dog you can feel sorry for, of course. But for the old man, I don't know, dude. And that's why it's just like the caricature of this is just sort of like, and especially because there are so many there's better films, of course, like Tokyo Story, and which I'll eventually get to, and what else, Make Way for Tomorrow, which I kind of view that even though that these are still kind of caricatures, at least there was some life inputted into them where like you can kind of understand where their circumstances came from. Umberto D doesn't have anything like that. It's just like this old guy that we have no clue about, that we're supposed to feel sorry for. And I don't think that that's. Uh, Usually, I don't put like narrative stuff. I don't like to put presuppositions. We're supposed to just like go into the movie, right? But it's just so. The like the acting was also terrible in this. Vittorio De Sica was known for using um, non-actors in this, and also in other films, of course. But like for this film, he used an old man that could not read his lines, was just not really good. The girl that he used was even worse. She was terrible. And this is a foreign film, so like I can't speak Italian or anything like that. Or but the inflections that these people that were using were just obvious that they just didn't know what to do. Especially the girl, she had no idea how to like portray this sort of thing. And I know I'll probably get a lot of hate for this, and I've spent like a lot more time on this than I should. But uh, Miracle Milan and Bicycle Thieves, especially Bicycle Thieves, are worth watching. Umberto D is not worth watching at all, unless you want to be like, that really like gets you where you want to feel sorry for like this old man, this dog. That's basically all that I can say for it. Don't get this film. No, go get it, of course, if you really like it. But for me, it's just I don't know why I haven't sold this yet. So that's really all I got to say about it. Richard III, another restoration done by Martin Scorsese and the gang. This is a Laurence Olivier film, one of his, I think, his main like last Shakespeare big films. I think he had made Hamlet before, and then another film that its title escapes me. But with this one, I found it was a really good film. The way that he filmed it, God, that sounded horrible. Laurence Olivier did I think a really great job, and it's basically like a Technicolor Marvel, just not really. It's just a Shakespeare film. Shakespeare's great, but for Richard III, not one of his better plays. Obviously, there's a lot better plays. But the reason to get this though is the commentary by, let me look here, Russell Lees and John Wilder's former governor of the Royal Shakespeare Company. That is the reason why to get this, because there is a lot of information here from, about the Bard, a lot of information about this film, the story of Richard III. That is the reason why to get this. And of course, it looks absolutely beautiful. If they made a 4K of this would be great, but I don't think that they will, because I don't think that there's a lot of people clamoring for 4K of Richard III. So definitely go ahead and check this out. I think it's on the Criterion channel, but it's a pretty entertaining film for sure. Rules of the game. The Blu-ray version, not the 4K version, obviously. This is like used old, sort of like comic book art. So this film, to me, is one of the all-time greats. And just for Brazen alone, because Jean Renoir had made this in 1939, and this was a time where, the Nazi sort of anxiety still existed. There was still stuff within the aristocracy that had been sorted out, not sorted out. What this film is about, is basically like an aristocratic get together, and eventually, it's all basically comes all undone. It's this sort of like alliances are formed. They're eaten up and just cut off automatically. They're all just stabbing each other in the back. It's this. It's wonderful and just almost like scary. This film is scary. It's funny, heartbreaking, satirical. It's just everything about Rules of the Game. This is such a, I can't even believe I'm going to say this, but this is maybe like, and I hate this term, but it's an underrated film, because it's almost like we sort of forget just how important Rules of the Game is to every satiric. I don't think there would be a lot of Luis Manuel's films that he made. I don't think that there would be a lot of like, I don't know, like The Celebration, or like this film just basically started a whole lot of these satirical films about the aristocracy, and but I don't think a lot of films have done it a lot better than Rules of the Game. So this is a must pick up. This is a great film, and it almost got lost. And there's a very emotional introduction by Jean Renoir, who says that, like, I can't believe it was saved. There's only like one part that doesn't even matter that was lost, but it's okay. At least this was saved. So this was actually like a dupe negative. So the film quality it's still good, but it's not like the best it could be. There's a 4K that was released in June that it uses the same negative, so I don't know how much better like the 4K would be over this, which I believe included the same special features, which is the reason why I'm going to keep my Blu-ray copy. That's just how I am. I'm not like a big 4K stan like a lot of other people are, because sometimes the stuff that you got to work with is already good and already in previous formats. So if anyone wants to change my mind on that, then that's awesome. 4K and blah blah blah. But this is a really good testament to how powerful film can be, and how just brilliant people can just put their ideas on the screen. So okay, so Tokyo Story, the legendary film from Yasujiro Ozu, made in 1953, a remake of Make Way for Tomorrow, which was made in 1937, which I also have in my collection. Now, this is a film that I've really thought about here in the past, because I really wasn't too hot on Tokyo Story. I really didn't think it was one of Ozu's best films. I still don't think that. But I was thinking like the past few days, because I actually went through this once before making this video, and I was just thinking of the comments that I had made, and I thought, maybe I was wrong on that, because the way that Ozu did this film was very intelligent because it was pre like Good Morning where technology hadn't inundated it, but it was just simply like the way of life that destroyed the family, that destroyed tradition, and and that the grandparents basically like let and they really had no choice to let the society basically like eat up the family around them, and that way that the work and the time has consumed their children's lives that they're basically unrecognizable. But is that on them, or is it the society that Japan had cultivated? I think that that's like the main thing behind Tokyo Story is that like it's society. Like you could say all you want about like the old people. That's why I think that Tokyo Story is very important in that regard. Not in the terms of like, oh, it's so sad that like the like I said, I'm a huge narcissist, but like that the parents, well, it's not even that, like, non empathetic, I would say, is that it's not even like the grandparents that like we should feel sorry about, but we should apply this to basically like what we have. So if I wanted to make a like if I wanted to make an example of how like, I work every single day, right? And I make these videos, but yet that time that I'm subtracted from that also affects my kids in some way. Because, my kid, may be on the tablet, right? Playing his Roblox, watching his YouTube while I do this, right? Because we don't think of those relationships that are being damaged and being replaced by others. That's what I think the Tokyo Story is able to convey in this, and that is just a destructive idea that all this time that we have on Earth can never can always be severed, shortened, and eventually replaced by these things that makes us non-human. It makes us forget, how we're that we just have this limited time in life. And I think that that's the most important aspect of Tokyo Story, and that's why I think it's an essential watch in that sense. So definitely check this out on Criterion Channel. Definitely one of the best movies. I talked about this movie previously, but Le Circle Rouge, incredible. Like, it's so awesome. So behind this, it's three men that basically meet up for a heist. That one has escaped jail, and all of them basically get together to do this heist, and it's a wonderful film. Icy cool, just everything about it is just awesome. It's like kind of, I think Rafifi came before this, but this is like the best example of like a film that is a modern day equivalent to like Heat. This is now this is a really good film on like the transfer debate. Well, not transfer, like a color coding or whatever, because this is like a more yellowish tint, more whatever, by Haventi, who did, or maybe it was Studio Canal. I won't bring that up. But The Circle Rouge, I think, is an excellent film. For sure, get it. And mercy me, man, I have not watched Le Samurai or like Army of Shadows or anything like that. Because what I wanted to start was Leon Morin Priest, and I didn't like that film at all. So like, I think that I haven't gotten into like the rest of Melville's films, and that's a shame on me. I'm definitely going to check that out, and definitely get this movie because it's really awesome. And the last film on the shelf is Three Women by Robert Altman, which I've already talked extensively about. This film is just is a masterpiece. It's one of Altman's best films, even though that it was I wouldn't call it a ripoff, but it was directly inspired by Persona that was made by Ingmar Bergman. This is a wonderful film, and I think that because all the women played so well, and I think that Shelley Duvall's performance is so good in this because it is so authentically Shelley Duvall that it's almost like beyond acting in a sense, especially like when she's just like doing the recipe for like a tuna melt or whatever. Not even a tuna melt, just like a tuna salad or whatever like that. It's just that she's just so comfy, like and eventually just how like all identities get lost in this dream within a dream. This movie, just, this is what movies should be about, man. It's Three Women, because it is just stunning. Like, I need to watch this tonight probably, and it's like going on 12 o'clock here. But anyway, That is the shelf. It's like 50 minutes, even though I try to edit this as best as I possibly can. So uh, thank you guys for watching. Your comments, likes, subscriptions, they keep me going to make this channel, obviously. So if you want to see more of this, comment, like it, and I'm still going to do it anyway. But if you want to comment, like it, subscribe, whatever you want to do, I appreciate all of your guys' support. So thank you so much.